Are we on mute?
No, actually that doesn't work. Okay, guys, we're gonna get going. We still waiting for some people to kind of crawl in here, but that will be good. So we got a couple of announcements this morning. So we're gonna let Drew. You are up with your big announcement.
Good morning, everybody. Next week is Volunteer Appreciation Week. This is a national thing that we kind of partner with, and all the volunteer organizations across Canada will be supporting their volunteers. So one of the things we're doing is for our resident volunteers, because there's a number of them, we're having a potluck on Wednesday at noon in this room. So everyone's invited. All staff are invited. We have a good number of residents that volunteer, and we just want to say thank you to them. And yeah, you can bring food, or you can just show up. Next Wednesday, this room, 12 o'clock.
Okay, bring food. Just couple of things I want to say. We've got some really amazing speakers coming up next little while, so I want to let everybody know this. But obviously Harv this morning, so that's good. We want to make sure he gets acknowledged. But on May 2nd, Preston Manning will be here. And we're very excited to have him here, and he's going to speak for a few minutes. And I believe Steve is actually interviewing him for the second half of that. There's some combination there, and so we want to make sure you got that down, and we pump that a little bit. Good to have a room full that day. So that would be great. The other thing I wanted to say is we were in a big meeting yesterday, and sometimes I think if you have something like your team has done that's really outstanding, let us know, because we want to make sure we acknowledge that in some way. The employment team did 34 jobs last month, which I believe is a record. It's the highest they've ever accomplished in 1 month, and they're already at 14 this month. So all they had to do was get me out of there as director, and the thing took off. It was just amazing. Derek is going to come up and introduce our speaker this morning.
I'm so glad that Harv is here to share with us. Harv has a long history of working with nonprofits. He's been a pastor, a missionary. He's been involved in leadership at a denominational level with the Christian Missionary Alliance. He's been a leadership coach that works with nonprofits, and currently he is the director of Encompass Partnerships. It's an organization that builds partnerships with and empowers organizations seeking to connect with some of the most marginalized individuals in Calgary. Currently under its umbrella, there are churches that reach into different cultural backgrounds. There's Chill, an agency that connects with women coming out of sexual exploitation. The New Canadian Friendship Centre, which helps immigrants transition into new life in Calgary. Anchored Warriors, which works alongside Aboriginal youth, as well as many others. Harv has been a great mentor to me and a great friend, and has been so helpful in my journey as a pastor, connecting with street sessions. So please welcome Harv.
Well, thanks everybody. It's great to be here. Thanks, Derek, too, for the tour. I had been in this building, I don't know, maybe 12 years ago or so. Didn't remember much, and wow, this place is, there's so much growth that has gone on here. Great privilege to be here. I wanted to talk to you today about your faith, and I'm not talking about your Christianity, the set of beliefs that you follow, but how is it that you even believe and trust in God in the first place? And what connection does that really have to your everyday life, your work here? Earlier this week, I was reading 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 3 to 5, and Paul was saying to his young protege, Timothy, that, hey, you know what? Faith is at the core of your life. It's at the core of your relationship with God. It's not rules, it's not regulations, it's not the formulas, not genealogies, nothing. It's your faith isn't really even about your Christianity. Other passages of Scripture, as you and I know, emphasize the fact that faith is a gift that comes from God. Nothing's done to obtain it. It's something that's completely free. And it's more profoundly mysterious than really even all the other deep philosophies of life and even versions of Christianity that a lot of people are peddling in the world today. And you know what? There is a cacophony of beliefs and worldviews and systems that are out there today that we could all select from. There's even versions of Christianities that we could choose to be a part of. Just so many voices. I'm reading a book right now called Sapiens. Maybe some of you are into that book right now. It's by Yuval Harari. He's a historian, and he subtitles his book somewhat humbly, I would say, A Brief History of Humankind. But his is a pure humanist point of view. And he views anything that is outside of the evolutionary biological imperative that is really a myth. In other words, all these belief systems that humanity has created, even the political systems that they've created, they're all really illusions, they're myths, because the real imperative is just everything is biological and it's evolutionary. And our faith, therefore, is a myth. And you know, I have to say, it got me thinking about my own faith. Really got me thinking about it. I hope you do too. I hope you think deeply about it and deal with some of your doubts along the way. And so got me rethinking a few things. And I realized, you know, frankly, if it was completely up to me, with all the choices that I have out there in this world, I probably wouldn't even choose Christianity. Because how would I know which one is really true? How would I know? It would be way better for me to just simply choose my own path, create my own system, and be satisfied with that. And yet here's the thing. When I try to do that, I just can't escape faith. There's something, there's someone that's calling out to me. Even in my doubt, and even when I can't make sense of life. Back in the early to mid 1990s, I was pastoring a church in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. The country had just opened up, and it had just been extricating itself from the influence of the Khmer Rouge. Lots of relief and development agencies were flooding in, and my congregation was pretty much 80-90% people from all these agencies. Every day they're out in the field. Every day they're out there dealing with the aftermath of the palpable evil of the Khmer Rouge. In Cambodia, they talk about it having experienced a national trauma. Very few countries in the world have experienced that, but that's where every man, woman, child in the country in that generation has been affected by a particular event, in this case the Khmer Rouge. And when you're out there every day, and I'm out there with these people, traveling with them to their various projects around, and you see the effect of that evil, they'd come back to the International Christian Fellowship. Sunday afternoons at 5:30 we'd meet, and my basic role was to remind people that God was still love, that God was still present in the midst of all of that evil. But it was tough. It was tough. I had my own recent event, a real personal dissonance with my relationship with God, and my work, where really I was functioning as a functional atheist in a Christian ministry. And I ended up needing to leave my ministry for a while just to sort things out again and to get myself in order. I came pretty close to saying it's done. Not my work, my faith, it's done. But something even out of all of that still called out to me. And it wasn't a set of truth that was calling out to me, like, hey, pick me, I'm the better truth. Come my way. It was a person who was calling out. Because faith is something that is deeply personal between God and me. The last thing that it has to do with religion is religion or codes or a set of doctrines. So the question I want to ask you today is what or who keeps you in the game of not only following Jesus, but of representing Jesus in your everyday life and your life here at the sea. We all know, because you deal with it all the time, that it's a pretty messed up world out there. And you read the news, you encounter it on the streets, you take a look at systems that are out there that are actually messing up people's lives more than they are simplifying it so that they can get the kind of things that they need. And it's a hard one for us to sometimes maintain faith and hope in anything. When I look at the macro level system and what's going on in the world and everything else that is just kind of complicating it, sometimes I just want to hunker down and wait it out. I don't want a faith that really engages the world. I'll just hold on to my faith to endure this world until it's all done and I'm done with it. So sometimes I think, what's my effort going to accomplish and why bother? Systemic evil, pain, and selfishness are like tentacles around the throat of the world. Oh, and then those religious Christians that actually turn the world off to Jesus Christ. And then we struggle with our own churches sometimes, saying they're so institutionalized, some of them, or they're so filled with programs that they're removing themselves from the actual basic needs of people. And this kingdom building project of God sometimes just seems like, is it really going to ever make a difference in this world? Why bother? Evil keeps pouring in, so much so, it's kind of like that little Dutch boy in the dike. But there's so many holes in this dike, there's not enough of us to plug it. So it just keeps coming. Oh, and then there's that starfish on the beach analogy. Remember that one? You're walking along the beach, there's a million starfish there, and the tide's out, and they're all going to die, so you want to do something about it. So you pick up that starfish and you fling it into the ocean, and your buddy beside you says, well, there's a million of them out here. What difference will that make? Well, it made a difference to that one. I don't know, for you, that analogy doesn't cut it for me anymore. Because there's just so much going on. How in the world are we ever going to touch the world, change the world, when the issues are so big? Is there an answer to the reason why I should remain engaged? Is there an answer to the reason why you should remain engaged? Not only working with people to show them God, but on a more fundamental, is there a reason why you should continue to believe in God at all? Well, it comes back to faith being a gift. If it came down to being dependent on my manufacture of reasons to remain engaged, I would have given up long ago. I've experienced enough pain in my life and enough loss and enough dissonance between my faith and this world that, I would have given up. But faith is a gift. It's a deep and often unexplainable confidence that keeps my eyes focused on God in the face of all those things that rails against His existence. It's so deep, sometimes it's very much unexplainable. And the gift of faith doesn't come from within. Somebody gives it. Without faith, we can't please God. And it's clear we can't work our way to God. So he gives us the way to come close to him. And each day, like Israelites going out to gather that manna, we need to go out and gather up our faith. And I think that's what Jesus meant in that prayer that he taught us, where it says, give us this day our daily bread. Give me enough today, Lord, to believe, to get out there and do what you've asked me to do. So it's humbling when you think about the fact that you have been given faith, that you did nothing to deserve it. There's no status that you had that produced this faith or that made God say, hey, you're a good candidate. I'll draw you to myself. And why some get the gift and others don't is one of those great theological mysteries. But here's the thing. It's not up to us to figure that out, because if faith is given, it's up to the giver. But this also releases us from trying to convince others to take this gift or to receive this gift, because it isn't ours to give in the first place. We're released from evangelizing by convicting and convincing people, and we're freed to live according to our faith, to allow other people to see what that looks like. Hebrews 11:6 says, without faith it's impossible to please God. You can't even connect to God without that. And to receive faith, you need to believe that he exists and that he cares enough to respond to those who are open to seek him. So the big question is whether there's anything to convince others of a reason to believe that God even exists. And that's where love enters, because God is love. And if so, where is the love? Now, you can say anything, and you can create the most articulate presentation about God and belief, but if love, the very essence of God, isn't evident, how will anybody ever believe that there is a gift given God? But if a person sees and feels love, belief in God is perhaps possible. And if the thought of a God who loves is possible, then the thought of seeking after that God is possible, and then the gift of faith is possible. But here's the thing. Faith isn't in your control. Love, however, is. In this kingdom, you don't plan or direct the building of the kingdom. You don't plan or direct the building of the superstructure that is the kingdom of God upon this earth. But through acts of love, you can participate, and you do participate as his worker. There was a Catholic bishop in El Salvador many decades ago who was killed because of his work amongst the poor. In his advocacy, in his speaking to the powers and systems that were suppressing people, he angered a lot of people and was assassinated for his work. And so there was another Catholic bishop that wrote a prayer at his funeral that is now apparently often used at many, many Catholic funerals, especially for those who have been martyred. I'm going to just quote a part of that prayer for you, because I think it really applies to placing ourselves as those who can't create faith, but those who can be a conveyor of the love of God so that God can give the gift of faith to the people that we work with. This is just a part of it, and I hope it helps to place you as to where do you fit. Do you fit at all in this grand scheme of things, in this world that is sometimes, you do want to turtle up and we say, done with it. My little drop, what's the purpose of it? It helps now and then to step back and take a long view. The kingdom is not only beyond our efforts, it's even beyond our vision. We accomplish in our lifetime only a tiny fraction of the magnificent enterprise that is God's work. Nothing we do is complete, which is a way of saying the kingdom always lies beyond us. We cannot do everything, and there's a sense of liberation in realizing that. This enables us to do something and to do it very well. To love. It may be incomplete, but it's a beginning. It's a step along the way, an opportunity for the Lord's grace to enter and to do the rest. We may never see the end results, but that's the difference between the master builder and the worker. We're workers, not master builders. We're ministers, we're not messiahs. We are prophets of a future that is not our own. I love that last line. Prophets of a future, not our own. Prophets calling out about the love of God, showing the love of God, that there is something more than what exists in this world. There's something more than what exists in your life and the condition that you're in. I may not be there to see the result of it all, but that doesn't matter. Because there is a God who is the giver of faith, who will complete what he had set out to do in the first place in that person's life. And that's the confidence that we have. Because if you look around us, if you look at the system, if you look at the way in which we can change it all, it will crush you. So be faithful. Do your piece. Out of the faith that you have been gifted, love in the name of Jesus. And from those acts of love, God will open up the way for another to be gifted faith in the same way he gave you that faith. Let me pray for you. Lord, I'm grateful for the people in this room and the other rooms around this province who have dedicated their efforts, their lives to serve those who are marginalized in the society, who are ignored by others, who are sometimes oppressed by the system and by people. I thank you for the dedication that they have shown. And I pray today that you would be encouraging them with your great sovereignty over all of this messy world, these systems that oppress, these challenges that people face. This is all too great for us. It's all too great for the mustard seed to be able to handle all of it. But you've given each a place in which to work within your kingdom. And your kingdom will come, and your will be done on this earth as it is in heaven. Remind us of that today, Lord, that we can walk about in everything that we do with great confidence, that there is a master builder, there is a kingdom builder, and the things that we do, the little things that we do, matter. And though we may not see the end result, Lord, help us to live those lives of the prophets who said what they said and did what they did in a steadfast hope of a God who is going to fulfill it some time in the future. And so, Lord, whatever the interaction is today, give us what we need today. Give us today our daily bread. Nothing more and nothing less, but enough to do what you have planned for us to do to build the kingdom today. In Christ's name. For those of you who are here, I'm going to get Derek to just pass out. This is a little brief brochure about Encompass Partnerships and what we're all about, just so you know that we're a partner with you here in Calgary in working amongst the marginalized. We have a partnership model where we have about 10 different organizations. Some are individuals who are starting out, launching ministries. Others are existing ministries, and we work with a co-working kind of a model and a partnership model around the main purpose and the main mission is to reach the marginalized of Calgary with the abundant life that is found in Jesus Christ. So it was great to be able to tour what was going on around here and to just see the impact that you're having at multiple levels in trying to, and not just trying, you are bringing hope and you are bringing a pathway of renewal for so many people. So may God just give you continued courage and patience and faith to keep doing what you do every day and knowing that He is making a difference with everything that you offer to Him. So thanks again.